Welcome back everybody, my name is Angel with Bergen Motorsports and today's video is going to be a little bit different. Originally we were supposed to build the M340 behind me as well as the Stinger to go to a private test track event that was scheduled literally today, and then we got rained out. But we thought it would be best to give you guys an update on the car and where it sits at right now. So the first part of this video is all pretty much B-roll. The second half of this video is us actually on the dyno, making the power and all the eye candy that you guys want to see. What are we doing?
Working on the fuel system, stage 3 fuel system with the port injection kit. We're making the new line that's going to go, and then the return line that comes back after the regulator. So we just finished pulling the intake manifold out, routing the fuel line. Now we're going to go ahead and get the port injection spacer ready. So many of you guys are not familiar with what the port injection spacer is. So this is basically a 1-inch spacer that we sandwich in between the intake manifold and the bottom runner plenum. This will allow for better fuel control and atomization per cylinder when we're shooting for high horsepower on full E85. So now I'm going to go ahead and assemble the BMS Fuel-It port injection spacer kit, finish making all the lines, route it to the fuel pressure regulator system, and return it all the way back to the tank. Let's get started.
Now that everything has been put back together and the PI system is on, Payam is putting it on the dyno. We're going to cycle through the gears, do a wastegate run, make sure there's absolutely zero leaks, make sure everything is making boost, making power on the correct maps, and then from there we can start pushing more power into the Stinger. I'm very excited. I'm also very nervous because no one's ever done this before. So this is definitely an uncharted area for this platform, but I'm very excited.
got the car on the dyno, I'd like to talk about what we've done to it. The last time I had it on the channel, we were racing at no fly zone. Now, from then, we've done a couple changes so we can get reliable and more power out of this engine. We've added port injection, which includes 6 auxiliary injectors with a spacer that's sandwiched between the intake manifold and the bottom plenum, like I mentioned earlier. What you did not see on camera, Chris from CM Builds also changed the wastegate springs. We went from 12 psi to 18 psi, which is holding steady. We've changed the fuel system from a stage 2 to a stage 3, which has all new lines coming up to the front with a 6-micron filter going and winding to the high pressure fuel pump and to the fuel rail, all the way to an external fuel pressure regulator and a line all the way going back. This is for people shooting over 800 wheel on full E85. For anything above 700 wheel horsepower, we suggest doing standard port injection, which we've developed for the kit, which will be available soon. Anyways, let's go ahead and start the car again, do some more preliminary runs, make sure everything's good on wastegate. All the wiring is done correctly after I took it all off and redid some stuff going back in. Now, I know you guys have been waiting for this. Let's see how this port injection does.
All right, so far so good.
Yeah, 28 pounds, 26 pounds up top. We're trying to figure out a little bit more about boost control. I might have gotten a little too small on the AR on the turbo, but I don't know. We'll have to look at the data some more before we call it conclusive. It is the next day, and we finished doing all the preliminary tuning with the Kia, sorting out the wiring, the sensors, any other calibration that we needed. We ran through some of the high boost. We found some issues, tried to sort it out, doing different things, swapping out the 3-port to a 4-port solenoid, etc. and etc. We're going to go through the maps, dial in each map, and as I go, we will go through the logs together and review them so you guys can see the same things that we see as we evaluate everything going through. So while I still have the 4-port solenoid on, this is from last night's testing. This was because we're hitting some sort of restriction. We wanted to confirm that it was or was not what we were thinking, which we already determined and we'll discuss later in this video. So the whole reason why we put the 4-port is because that will give us more control over higher boost. With the 4-port, you're able to get away with using a lighter spring to get higher boost targets. In this case, it did not help us for what we're trying to do, so we're going to go back to the 3-port. That's how the car was already tuned on, and I already have the profile set for that.
Here's JB4 wastegate button.
And here's the first run with the JB4 Pro on wastegate port injection and on E85, 526 wheel horsepower, 512 wheel torque, which is insanely impressive. Let's go ahead and look at the log like Payam said and see what's going on.
So this is the wastegate log review. We put 19 PSI springs in the wastegate, but over here we can see that we're hitting a target of 17 and it tapers down to about 14 up top. This is a pretty loose spring. Usually I would expect it to hold up a little bit more towards redline, but it's okay for now. Auxiliary 6 is our back pressure. It seems to be close to 1 right now. Tracing the boost line. Everything looks good. Port injection is good. Fueling looks good. All right, then let's start turning it up now.
JB4 Map 1 with port injection on E85 on 20 pounds of boost, 597 wheel horsepower, 567 wheel torque. Just on Map 1 alone, we are almost breaking that 600 wheel horsepower barrier.
Okay, Map 1 looks really good too. Now we're targeting 20 PSI across. We're hitting a peak of almost 20 and a half pounds, and it tapers down to around 18 PSI at redline. Fueling is still awesome, just as we would expect with the port injection. Timing is solid, AFR is solid. Back pressure is creeping up now. Right now we're seeing around 28 PSI. This is this purple line, 20 PSI up top when we're holding 18 PSI. So we have a 10 PSI difference right now, getting more back pressure as we turn up the boost, which is pretty typical. Let's go on to Map 2. I believe we're set for 23 PSI on that.
Here's JB4 Pro Map 2 on E85 with port injection.
And here we are on JB4 Map 2 with port injection on a full E85 at 23 pounds of boost, 683 wheel horsepower, 623 wheel torque. That is an 86 horsepower jump just from Map 1 to Map 2.
Now we're looking at the Map 2 log. Boost target 23 PSI. We hit that. And it tapers down to around 22 PSI towards redline. Fueling still looks good, high pressure and low pressure. Nice and steady. Back pressure is definitely creeping up. We're hitting 34, 35 pounds of back pressure when we're seeing 22 PSI. So we're definitely getting up there. We'll see if that becomes a restriction later. And let's turn it up to the next Map 3. I believe that is 26 PSI.
Here's JB4 Pro Map 3 on E85 with port injection.
And here we are on JB4 Map 3 at 26 pounds with port injection on full E85, 721 wheel horsepower, 670 wheel torque.
Checking out Map 3 set at 26 PSI boost target. We hit our target and slowly tapers off at redline. We're hitting around 23, 24 PSI at redline. And I'm actually requesting from 4,500 up. I'm requesting around 90% wastegate duty cycle to make sure that we're hitting on target. So it's a lot on this map for us to stay on target. We're going to see if we can hold any more boosts after this as we go for the next Map 4 that's targeting 29 PSI. So a lot of people are going to ask, what is the point of doing the port injection over CPI if we hit the same numbers? And the point is safety and reliability when we're pushing high horsepower numbers like this. The CPI works well, and we've proven it between thousands of kits being sold throughout the other platforms that we tend to, including the main platform, the Kia platform that benefits it the most due to the high pressure fuel pump constraints that we're limited to when running on stock turbos on full E85. Right now, with this system, with the stage 3 low pressure, with the port injection, coupled with these big turbos, we have enough to flow whatever we want and do it safely. Now that we've replicated the basic numbers that we have from last time, I'm going to shoot for a little bit more because everything in the log is looking very healthy. Terry says let's turn it up a little bit more, but we want to make sure we keep this engine alive before we go to the track next week. Of course, the transmission is still not here for this car. Pierre is diligently working on it so they can get it out for us and all of you out there. Regardless, we got to make do with what we got, and we're going to shoot for the stars with it. Let's go ahead, set it to Map 4 now, and see what higher numbers we can get.
And here we go on JB4 Map 4 on 29 pounds of port injection on full E85. As you can see, it made a whopping 771 wheel horsepower and 771 wheel torque. That is a 1-to-1 comparison. That is a lot of torque, actually.
Man, that's a bunch of power and a bunch of torque. 771 horsepower and torque. Let's take a look at the log now. 29 PSI target. We're hitting close, almost 30 psi in the mid-range, and then it tapers back down, of course, to around 25.9 psi. Man, if we could just hold that all the way to redline, we'd make a lot more power. You can see in the graph how it kind of, slopes downward right here, but it's making gobs of torque. So let's take a look at the back pressure. Yeah, that thing is up there. We're at 42 psi at 20. It's almost 2 to 1, very close. It's like 1.8 to 1 back pressure ratio. So I can see why boost is dropping down low up top, because of the high back pressure. So this is the issue that we ran into last night when we were doing our testing, which is why I had to revert to the 4-port that I was speaking about earlier. We try to do that so we can fix that boost taper up top, but that did not fix anything with the 4-port, even with the heavy springs that we have on right now. That tells us that with the high back pressure that we have, even with the 4-port, we're not able to overcome the pressure and the choking point, which is that turbine housing. Right now we have a 1.0 D4 divided housing. We hit up Precision. We asked them to overnight us a 1.158 twin scroll AR housing for the 66mm exhaust turbine wheel. Now, hopefully I'll be here tomorrow. We'll be able to install it, and let's see if we can get that above 800 wheel. This is our choke point. This is where we're going to stop. I don't want to push any more horsepower or torque, and especially since we want to go racing, like I mentioned, for the 3rd time. So I'm probably going to dial it back down after we get that new housing back on. Hopefully it comes in time and we're able to review it for you guys. It is the next day. We just got the Precision housing overnighted to us. The Kia Stinger is back on the dyno. As you can see behind me, the engine and transmission just got dropped in. Anyways, let's get to work and install this housing and see if we can get some more power, alleviate back pressure, and break the 800 wheel horsepower barrier. When stepping up the horsepower, you need to make sure spark and ignition is on point, especially when targeting higher boost. This is why we came out with the 3.3 Stinger and G70 ignition coil kit. We've been thoroughly testing this on a high horsepower car and our other cars. Now let's get the production series on there so you can show you guys how it looks like with the extra bling and the high output logo. Alright, so this is on the new 1.15 AR twin scroll housing. Wastegate map looks good. Holding a little bit more boost right now. Yeah, it looks like it's holding about 1 more PSI to redline. Back pressure is still 1 to 1, so that is good. And spool doesn't look like it's changed. So overall, net positive. Let's go ahead to map 2 and let's test 23 PSI out.
Here's what we got at 23 PSI. We've got 707 horsepower and 640 wheel torque.
We're hitting a target of 23 PSI, 24, 23, all the way through, nice and flat. Back pressure is getting up there again, 35 PSI back pressure to 23 PSI boost pressure. I think it's lower. So far it does look like we're making a little bit more in the graph as well, so maybe it is freeing it up, but I really won't know until I start turning it up on the next few maps. But I think I'm going to go straight to map 4, see what we can get out of 29 PSI map and compare it to the last map 4 run that we did. So let's go ahead and do map 4 run, 29 PSI target, and see if we can get closer to target in the top end where it was tapering off with the last AR housing. map 4. We're targeting 29 PSI. We're hitting 29 PSI, 28.7 in the mid-range, and it's tapering back down again. And this is with 100% duty cycle up top. It's going back down to 25 PSI, just like the last housing. And we're hitting 43 PSI of back pressure up top. So it just looks like we might just be limited on this, and even going up with the larger AR housing won't do anything. So right now, the best way up would probably be to go up a turbo size, basically to a 6870. The reason why I didn't want to go too large is because I wanted to make sure I keep spool unchecked with the amount of horsepower, so there's a happy medium that you need to keep in mind when you're choosing these turbos. And apparently this engine flows so much that it's very efficient. We do need a larger house, a larger turbine wheel. A 6870 or a 7275 might pair up better than what we have right now. Regardless, this is what I have to play with. So I'm going to turn it back down a little bit, keep the torque down, because that 780 torque is crazy right now for these rods and the stock motor. The head looks good. Coolant pressure is on check right here. So we know we're keeping it safe, at least on the dyno. I'm going to turn it back down a little bit for the track, and this car is pretty much ready to go. So I turned it back down a little bit. This is a target of 26 PSI, holding it all the way to redline since I know it can do that. I kept it this way because I wanted to make sure I keep torque down so the engine and the transmission could last when we go to the quarter mile. As you guys know, the pure transmission is still not here yet. They're trying their best to figure it out to make sure they get a solid product for you guys. And we will be testing it and putting it through its paces. Regardless, 730 wheel horsepower, 660 wheel torque. That's where I'm going to leave it at. That's how I'm going to race it at the track. And if we need to, we can still turn it up more when we're there.
All right, well, that was this entire weekend. Building the Stinger, getting the new parts onto the car. A lot of back and forth, especially because this is very uncharted territories, and Payam and Terry have been working around the clock to try to get more and more power out of this car. However, we've hit a speed bump now, and this time it's not with the car. And instead, this time we have issues with the weather. Now, the last poll that you guys had seen was, I believe, yesterday. Is that correct? Yes, yesterday, which made 783 wheel horsepower. That's insane, especially since it's still a stock transmission. We're rescheduling it for the end of this month, which is hopefully late February, early March. But we didn't want you guys to keep on waiting. If you guys are enjoying the video and are enjoying the Stinger build or the M340 build or any of the other cars that we're doing, we know how much you guys love the Mazda. We appreciate that. Make sure to like and subscribe. Comment down below what you guys want to see next, whether it's a certain car you haven't seen already or a car you've already seen and you want to see more of. Let us know down in the comments below. Until then, we appreciate your support, and we'll see you guys next time.